as of everybody knows, I am currently the fire chief of Rockville Fire Department. I joined in 2005, and I've done numerous trainings. I have fought many structure fires, interior, exterior. I know the difference between arson and non-arson. I've been doing this for quite a while, to where every training that I go to, we pay attention, we train more, and then also we get that into consideration of the aspect of becoming a fire marshal.
Well, I understand where Commissioner Russo is coming from, and maybe some sort of joint, but the fire departments are not joint. They work together and cooperate, everything. But Chief Grimes, I think, did a good job, and if his recommendation is Mr. Guerrero, I think we ought to at least give it some consideration. And so I think you would be fine. He has the certifications.
I would really like to see this process go through a more regular, search and selection process.
This is not a paid position, is it?
Yes, $3,500 a year.
It's a stipend, and one of the things we ought to discuss is whether it ought to be a salaried position and whether we should do something more formal and have a more formal search process. I'm afraid what we're doing is sort of filling a not exactly paid position kind of quickly and on the run. I mean, we appointed Mr. Grimes without much discussion, and then he left without much discussion, and now we're talking about a replacement, and Mr. Guerrero may be fine. I've nothing against him personally, but we haven't really had a chance to see what's available to us and what we should do long term, and to appoint somebody to a 2-year term now without again taking an opportunity to look about us and see what we really need. I mean, for instance, many people in the community have told me it's important to have somebody who's got law enforcement experience in this position. We don't really know what the pool of available people with law enforcement experience plus some fire training is. I understand that the situation with Mr. Grimes was that we needed him to inspect something, but he needed another course and didn't have time to take it. I mean, we need to understand the full set of requirements and what kind of training is available and required, what other communities have their fire marshals certified in. We're just kind of flying blind a little bit and moving too quickly. And we have some people here from the firefighting community. I would love to hear from them about what they're looking for as a backup for their firefighting
let's do that.
If you don't know me, I'm Cody Morellis. I'm Chief Fulton Fire Department. Me and Aaron, we've been in the fire service since 04, 05. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. There's nothing against Aaron, and I'm not saying he couldn't do the job. But in a fire marshal aspect of it, there's a few of us, we believe that it needs to be in law enforcement, somebody that's there when we can call at 2 a.m. We can call, these burns, arson, investigations. Right now, we don't have that. We get a big working grass fire. These fire marshals come in and they help us work those incidents, get state resources in that aspect of it. There's nothing against Aaron. I'm not saying he doesn't have the training and doesn't have the job, but on the investigative and the law enforcement part of it, that's what we need. So that's my stance on it.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Dorn.
Morning, Judge Mills, commissioners. I'm Tim Dorn, DORN. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief at Lamar Volunteer Fire Department. I'm here today speaking on behalf of Chief Stubbs, who's out of town. We echo the same concerns and also the same appreciation for Chief Guerrero being willing to step up to this position, maybe on a temporary basis. The concern that we have is that there's a duplication of effort without having a sworn law enforcement officer conducting these investigations, where we have the investigative entity on one hand, and then we have the fire marshal's entity who may not have the legal authorizations, arrest powers, citation powers, and those kinds of things, which then can create a duplication of effort. We support, as it has been in the past, being a sworn law enforcement position. Many communities do that. We fully support Chief Guerrero with the training and experience that he has, and feel that may be a good option for him to be able to fill in on a temporary basis, maybe bring in the chiefs and have a conversation with the chiefs and involve our chiefs in what would we like to see and what do we need to best support the community and to provide that service.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And that echoes pretty much my main point. And that is, I would really like to see a temporary appointment. Let's don't lock ourselves in for 2 years before we have a chance to really consult with the whole firefighting community and figure out what we need and what's available.
Well, instead of tabling it, do you want to make the motion to do that? I can see how I could very well need to be in law enforcement, but that would be a full-time paid salary employee.
I also echo that, and I think this is an awesome opportunity to have all 3 fire departments involved in the decision. Maybe not in the total choice, but in the recommendations for that, because I think that is a very key position for all 3 fire departments.
Well,
So I'd call for the question.
Well, the question right now is just to table. I mean, I guess I would like to move. I wouldn't mind tabling. The other opportunity for us here is to say, let's modify the motion to make it a 90-day interim appointment. And that'll give us some time to look through what our options are, but not tie ourselves down for, a long period. We do need somebody in the position. I mean, Mr. Grimes has resigned. But an
I
interim
will
appointment
withdraw
works.
my motion to table this and.
Well, I'll move then to amend the motion to make the appointment a 90-day interim appointment instead of a 2-year appointment.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. Guerrero, would you accept a 90-day appointment? All right, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Guerrero, and thank you, chiefs, both of you. Appreciate it. And if y'all have something else to do, you can go ahead. I'm sure you have something more interesting
And
to do
thank you.
anyway.
Thank you
Thank
for
you very
coming in.
much. Item
I'm-
number 6,
I move to consent to a sublease agreement with an option to purchase between T2J Partners LLC and MS Land and Arrow for a box hangar, which is situated on land lease from Aransas County and is located at the Aransas County Airport at 317 John D. Wendell Road, Rockport.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Yeah, I'd like some information.
And we did discuss this 2-3 weeks ago, I believe.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. The way I understand it, it's a sublease. We've approved subleases in the past, but I know the county attorney's office has had some question about it. We had an airport advisory board meeting on it. The board members heard, I feel like, every detail to it and voted unanimously to bring it forward to the commissioners. Commissioner Russo has been there, was there for that meeting and may offer some insight to what we learned that day that, or what you learned that day that you'd like to share.
Well, I feel that the airport advisory board discussed both contracts right now. We're talking about the box hangar one at length and looked at the advantages, especially to the airport, because that's what we're mostly concerned with, and unanimously voted in favor of this.
As I understand it, this produces some income for us. And my main concern was to make sure that we had, a way to back out of it as well as to get into it. And speaking to Mr. Stewart, I understand we do have quite a lot of freedom to, I mean, if anything ever pops up that's a problem, you can terminate the lease, take it back. We're not
That's
stuck
the way
with
I understand it as well. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like some input from the legal. And
This item is only to consent to the sublease between the current lessee of the airport property under which that building sits and the FPS Recovery Services, but they're doing business, or pardon me, their actual name is T2J Partners LLC. Normally what happens when we have a land lessee who wants
Not
to.
hearing her very well.
Yeah, I'm not sure your mic is actually. Maybe get a little closer to the mic.
No,
That was nice and loud.
This is my Mary Tyler Moore show.
That's
there you go.
Very good.
That's better.
Drop the other one, it might work better.
I didn't mean to drop the mic literally. Okay. This item is only to consent to a sublease. The reason why this is before the Commissioners Court is the Commissioners Court has leased the ground underneath the hangar to the owner of the hangar, which is, I think this one's MS, isn't it? MS Land and Arrow. So this consent is only to say that our lessee, MS Arrow, is allowed to sublease the ground that the airport owns to T2J Partners LLC. Normally, those are the only provisions we're looking at, is whether our sublease, the sublease would still benefit us, because either way, we're still getting our rent for the ground under that hangar. This is a more complicated situation because of what the plan is for the hangar later on. And I would submit that the Commissioners Court should be clear today that this vote is limited to consenting to a sublease and not entering into any kind of agreement with another party. This is strictly limited to consenting to the sublease between two other parties.
That's not a problem for the airport or the sublease.
No, of course
Sublease.
not. Like, and just like Ms. Osteen said, that we'll continue to make the land lease revenue from Mr. Stewart.
Mhm.
So the sublease is between, in this case, MS Land and Arrow, and the next one is between Stewart Legacy Group and T2J doing business as FPS. That's and for the intended use, there's a little bit of difference between the two hangars. So the hangar in this case, we're talking about the box hangar on John Wendell Road. The intended use will be for T2J or FPS to store materials inside that are hangar components for our future hangars that FPS has been contracted to build. And it keeps us from having the risk of having those materials set outside and succumb to the elements any further than they already have. And then it also by doing that, by moving the materials out of the hangar that they're currently in, which has been under construction, that you'll know it as Hangar Tall or the DPS hangar. It's going to allow us to rent that hangar as soon as they're through with the electrical and the office build out. Otherwise, we'd be not forced, but we'd have to look at the perhaps leaving those materials where they're sitting and then not leasing that hangar any sooner than we'd hope to.
So it
So-
solves two problems.
Yes, ma'am, I think so.
What does the primary lease say will happen to the hangar that's built on it at some point in time down the road? Right, those leases say that at some point in time, that hangar becomes property of the county.
But I think in this case, these two hangars are already built. The ones that we're talking about subleasing on this one and the next item, there are reversion clauses in there for those hangars, as there are with all land leases. It doesn't affect, as far as I'm aware, this sublease does not affect that at all.
And this is for 1 year
It's for 1
with
year.
an option
with
to renew
options.
or to do something else at the
Yes,
end of
ma'am.
that year.
But even if it opted to the end of the land lease, the hangars still revert back to the county at the end of the land lease.
Right. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item number 7.
I move to consent to a sublease agreement with an option to purchase between T2J Partners LLC and Stewart Legacy Group LLC for a 12-unit T hangar, which is situated on land leased from Aransas County and is located at 4521 Highway 35 North Rockford.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Laubach. Any discussion?
Mike, do you want to give any more information on this? We also discussed this, I believe, 3 weeks ago, and this also was unanimously approved by the
That's
Airport
correct. Yes,
Advisory
ma'am.
Board.
Yes, ma'am. And yeah, it's the same, essentially the same lease front to back, except this one is a T hangar with 12 units as opposed to one box hangar.
And the lessee will have an option to purchase if they choose,
That's
or it
correct.
reverts back.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
All right,
Commissioner
Aye.
Casterline, Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous.
I move to approve awarding a construction contract for the Pocono Heights Road Improvement Project to KC Lease Service Incorporated, DBA Matagorda Construction and Materials, with the project being funded with grant funds available in the General Land Office State Contract with number 20-065-098-C270, and authorizing the county judge to execute the construction contract and any other necessary documents.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney.
I'd like to bring something else up in there. On these GLO projects, and particularly this one, there was an initial estimate of the cost. This project is what, 55,000? I think, you know, Aaron? It's in excess of the original
Yeah, it's about
estimated.
54,000 and change. Yeah.
And so we have two options. One is we pay that difference. The other is we move the difference from one of the other road projects.
What-
The projects that would probably be pulled from, that has apparently the most money, would probably be the Holiday Beach project, but
How much money?
grant people think this kind of needed to at least be mentioned in the.
How much money are we talking about having to move? How
Yeah.
far short?
Yeah, correct. Out of the budgeted number. And by the way, my name is Aaron Horine. I'm a principal coastal engineer with Mont McDonald in place of David Reed here today. So that number is 54, the exact number is $54,437. So that's a deficit off of the budget. And
Oh,
that-
what's the, I'm sorry, I thought that was, what's the total budget? So 55,000 is the amount that we're short.
Yeah, correct.
And what's the total?
The total budget is 1,640.
$1 million.
I'm sorry,
1 million.
1,642,212.
Okay.
And just for reference, the budget for Holiday Beach is 4,181,786.
Did we, back when we released the micro hospital funds, we talked about maybe spreading that money around to cover overages. Is any of that available for this?
Well, that's already been spread throughout.
That's already,
these,
okay, so
correct.
that's no longer available.
Yep.
You have any concerns about whether deducting 55,000 from the Holiday Beach project will make it hard to complete?
No.
It's really got extra.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we don't have that concern. And that was echoed by David as well.
All right, so what you're saying is if we take the 54.2 or whatever from the Holiday Beach project, there'll still be enough in the Holiday Beach project to complete that work?
Correct.
Because you'll have to be back up here before us.
Yeah. So, and it's
I know.
based off of these budgets. So, you know, as the bids come in, you know, we'll have, you know, as we do these, get these coming through more and more, you know, because we've got these others, then we'll have a better beat on what that may end up being. So the nice thing is that we can, between all the projects, can move that money around if needed.
But you're confident that even when the bids finally come in on Holiday Beach, we're not going to run short there too after taking this money out of that pot,
They should, I mean, there is that possibility, but they shouldn't.
but not something you expect. I just want to be able to reassure the Holiday Beach people we're not invading their pot and won't leave them, you know, the last man standing.
Yeah, correct.
And how many entities bid on this project?
There were 5 total. There were 5, and you know, like I said, the budget was between the budget and the lowest bid was about 3%, which was, you know, great for what's going on in the economy today. So that's why we recommended selecting them.
And when do you think this will begin? If it's approved today, when will the work begin?
So the procurement process has to follow all of the GLO standards. So we're talking, probably at least a month for contracting, and then I'd say it's at least 2 months out. most
So in
likely.
October.
Yeah, at the
July,
earliest.
August,
What's the
September.
total, once you do shovel ready, what's the length of time it take to complete the project?
I don't recall. That's a good question. I don't recall the duration for this one. It's about 210 days, apparently.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous.
I move to approve the 100% final construction plans for the Linden Drainage Improvement Project as prepared by Mike McDonald.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Commissioner Cheney, any discussion?
David has said from his review, he believes all of these projects are fine with him. He's reviewed all of them.
Yeah, I talked with him Friday and said that.
So what it means for them to be 100% complete is what, that our next step is to go out for bids?
Correct. Yeah, the package is ready to go. The next step is just doing the bid advertisement for all these.
So these are these expected to break ground this year?
On one of the other ones on 1781, that one is a little ahead of some of these other projects. So that's the plan, is to have that one break ground before the end of the year. And it just depends on the timing for the others. But yeah, that's
Right, that's the one that item 13 is to
Correct.
get started on bids for the construction, the others.
Correct.
So end of the year, possibly to start on 1781 and the others to follow relatively soon in
Just
the
right
next
behind
year.
it. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's the goal, the end of this year.
And are they're all sort of 7-month projects, or is that 210 days? Are they all really different? Is Copano one of the longer ones or medium?
Probably the shorter.
Yeah, it's
Shorter
one of
one,
the
okay.
shorter
So
ones,
the rest
yeah.
of them are going to probably push
Yeah, 'cause
way
all those,
into.
all those others are
23.
in the neighborhood of 4 million.
So probably you expect them to get done in 2023, probably, but not necessarily early in 2023.
Correct.
And one of the things that will affect when these projects are let is that the county has to float the money. We basically, much of the time, have to pay and wait till we get the grant payment. So, the auditors that will have some impact on
that
when we
slows
let
things.
certain bids is.
Now with these, this is part of the 53 million in bids in grants from GLO. I thought we actually received all that money. Is it, we've received it, but it's restricted still, or we actually have to wait for the check from the state still?
All reimbursement grants, so we have to pay up front and then wait for reimbursement on them.
So we don't actually have the 53 million in the
No.
bank. It's just sort of
It's-
pre-approved
it's-
from
it's
GLO.
Approved for us, it's ours, but they
Okay.
hold it and they reimburse as we spend the money.
And there are a lot of roadblocks along
Yes.
the way.
Mhm.
A lot of hoops to jump through.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous. Item 10.
I move to approve the 100% final construction plans for the Loop 1781 Road Improvements Project as prepared by Mike McDonald.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Castelline, and I will say, thank God for this, because my phone will stop ringing.
I get more calls about this one than any.
Mhm.
When they get it all tore up, you might get more.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they'll be happy if something's being done.
Okay, so as you mentioned, this one is sort of first in line
Yeah. that's-
and
Yeah, number
closest
13
to
's-
being started.
Correct.
Do you have the numbers handy for the total amounts of these budgets
Mhm.
for each project?
Yes, I do.
I mean, can you rattle them off the top of your head and let me write them down? Or are they in the staff memo already and I just missed, I didn't look. Then give me a rough to the nearest, couple of digits.
Yeah, they are really most of these, the ones that are on The Linden is about 4.5 million.
Okay, 4.5.
Loop 1781 is for Rattlesnake, 4.5.
Is, wait, is 1781 also, oh, okay, I'm sorry. What's the 1781 number?
Around four.
4, and then 4.5 for Rattlesnake.
And then Southwest Aransas County is 6.4.
6.4. And you already gave me the number for Copano Heights. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right.
See, we,
Yes.
did we vote on 11?
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item 11.
I move to approve the 100% final construction plans for the Rattlesnake Point Road Improvements Project as prepared by Mott McDonald.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion?
Just glad to see these on the
Roll
agenda.
call.
Mhm.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item 12.
I move to approve the 100% final construction plans for the Southwest Aransas County Drainage Improvements Plan as prepared by Mott McDonald.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded twice. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
And I move to approve authorizing county staff to advertise for bids for the construction of the Loop 1781 road improvements.
Second.
Commissioner Castelline seconded. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 14.
This is my usual placeholder item, and I've received no requests for discussion this week.
I do have some things that I would like to bring up. I'm sorry. I do have workbooks for y'all for Monday. As well as
And Monday is our
Monday is
our next scheduled budget workshop for the public, open to the public.
has a scheduling here, it has a calendar. They've also done a sheet on any of the changes. We're going to have some work this year.
Tell them most years we don't have any work.
We're gonna have some work.
There's numbers in here for taxes. Anna's given me an effective rate. I'm not comfortable with what I've got there. I've got some more work and some more study on it myself. So it looks worse. There's some, one thing that I would like to add is because of us changing to the workshop on the 8th instead of the 1st, that we look at possibly having our public hearing as well as adopt on the 29th. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait to adopt till September. It is by statute, we can hold our public hearings and adopt on the same day. Public hearing, we would go into a regular meeting. Since we've had this on the agendas every week, I don't feel like there's an issue or a problem that would come up during the public hearings, and if it does, we can still discuss that and change it if we need to. But it would definitely make it better, or it would streamline the budget process if y'all would agree to do the adoption and the public hearing on the same day.
What bad thing happens if we don't decide, make the final decision until September?
Nothing except just to prolong it for 2 more weeks, and we run the risk of running into forms. I mean, we did this 1 year, Harvey.
Hmm.
So,
I'd hate to, I mean, it's one thing to say we haven't had any discussion, but also we haven't really had any detailed presentation of budget issues. The public's not been particularly clued into what we're going to do in any detail. I really dislike not giving the public the chance to kind of chew over numbers and come in to us with their concerns, especially
we
if
have 3 weeks left, still 3-4 weeks.
but without,
We're not making that decision today.
yeah, I'm just saying I'm resistant.
Could we have or is there a reason not to have a public hearing in advance of maybe next Monday's meeting?
We can't, we have to publish it. It has to be in the paper for 10 days prior to the hearing. Now,
That's for the
that
tax
being
rate, right?
said, One, we propose a tax rate, and that's the other reason. We have next Monday, y'all are going to propose a tax rate. Really, I need to look. There may be not an issue with us proposing the tax rate money, having go ahead and publish for the public hearing, and then have it a little earlier. It would have to be, I don't think we'll even be able to fall on. Let me look at the calendar on that, because there's just.
If that works, that would,
things that have to happen,
I'd like
and
it.
Then there's publication requirements, so.
Right.
That would be,
Worth looking at though.
but I will double check on that.
Thank you.
And if y'all have any questions before Monday.
Yes.
And since the commissioner's agenda item talked about hot funds, there, she did just give you a list of ones that are requested that aren't in the budget. So
Okay.
that we talk about next.
Now, there's nobody here today that I know of who wants to pitch a particular hot funds proposal that has not yet been incorporated in the draft budget. And I'm not aware of any particular issues. It could be that this is just something, now we have notice, we can put the word out, and it's something that should be discussed next Monday at the budget workshop.
Yes, ma'am. We can do that. There are 2 requests and they're on your list.
Uh-huh.
They do not qualify.
Ah.
So they are not in here at all.
They're not on your list, you mean? Oh,
They are on my list. The
Which-
second page shows all the hot fund requests and what was asked, what was done. So I've tried to make
I see. And
the
you,
summaries for
you
you. so
identified
that
them
you
and
know
said they're-
what has happened in
Got
the
it.
budget. But there are 2 requests that do not qualify at all. So they are not in there.
okay, so aside from the 2 which just didn't qualify under the statute, there are no others that have requested funds that we have basically not included in the draft budget?
If you'll notice, there are several there that have requested. It's going to take commissioners' decision on whether you want to do it or not.
Okay, so there's some that are up in, very much up in the air.
There's some
So,
that are still in there.
So these requests that are reflected on here are not reflected in our notebook.
is that right? The
I've made
second-
a note on which ones are and which ones aren't.
Okay. For instance, okay, I see when you say that there's a request and it's added, so that's in the budget. And then the others that say, do we increase? That means they're not added
Yes,
yet.
Okay.
Yes, I did try to give, want direction on whether to add them, not to add them, and let you know which ones I did and which ones I didn't.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
Item 15.
I move to approve the selection of option A, no change on the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles imposition of optional fees form. This fee is imposed under Transportation Code Section 502.403 on local vehicle registrations and is used for the provision of child safety measures in Aransas County. Aransas County will charge the same fee, $1.50 child safety fee for calendar year 2023.
So as I understand it, this just comes up on our agenda every year because the statute requires us to make
Motion
it.
made and seconded, Commissioner Castro.
Sorry.
Discussion.
So all we're doing this year is saying, although the statute requires us to reconsider it every year, we want to stick with what we've got. With no reason to change anything.
We're at the max that we can collect anyway.
Right. And
So we have everything that we.
And no
can
reason
collect
to
under. Every year
decrease
this will
it.
come up.
Yeah.
We just have to say no change.
do we have
Last year-
options? Do we have,
Last year, we added the last thing that we could add, and that was the $1.50. We
What-
are at whatever we can charge, and it's it.
I think theoretically, if we wanted to make a change, it could be to reduce it, or is that even an option?
You could reduce it, but
I'm not
that's
saying we
really
have
not
a
an
reason to.
option. No.
I'm just
yeah.
saying that's
Yeah.
something we could do under the statute. I guess the other, could we also change what we spend it on?
I'm not at liberty to answer. That's more.
No, it's
auditor.
pretty much written in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have a lot of choices
No,
facing
it's
us
just
anyway.
every year the state requires us to do this, just to state what our fees are going to be for 2023.
Procedural.
Yep, it's just procedural every year.
Okay, well, I certainly have no reason to proposed to decrease it, and it doesn't sound like we even want to think about changing what we use it for. So sounds fine to me.
Actually, I think Anna had attached to this form that goes to the, well, someone did about like the child safety fee, it could be used for school crossing guards or programs to enhance child safety, but it specifically states how that money can be used.
Correct.
So it has parameters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where does the money go to? Who's in charge of the money as far
I
as?
turn it over to the auditors and they have where they allocate it. Whatever they chose, the treasurer, I'm sorry.
Who do you actually turn it over to? Who spends it? The state of Texas spends it?
No, the $1.50 for the child safety is allocated through ours. And I believe last year when we took it up, the sheriff was in here and they wanted to use it for crossing guards for the schools.
I don't know, Alma is the one
Yeah.
that takes that fund, those funds, and deposits it into a take it general fund.
Okay.
I couldn't answer what she does with it because that was between the sheriff and what they use it for.
Okay, but I mean, a typical thing would be for the sheriff's office to actually distribute the money to whatever gets spent on.
What, if we got an invoice from the school for crossing guards, that's where it would go. I mean, they would normally invoice us, that's what I've seen in the past, is that they would invoice us for crossing guards. It's not just an automatic send them, but a
Right.
lot of times they will do that.
What is it? Do you know roughly what it is per year?
No, I do not.
I don't have any idea. I have not looked at it I can get that information for you, but I have not
Okay, yeah, if you call me
got
later
it
with
to
the
memory.
email. Okay,
Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawbach,
aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
To approve budget line item transfers.
I'll second that.
I have none at this time.
That's
I move to,
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawbach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
I move to approve accounts payable. Payroll liability.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Casterline.
We do have two invoices. We have one that I'm walking in, you did not receive. The report that you received has a lot of payroll liabilities on it, but there's also a check to a Basie Thatch. She is going to be an interpreter for a court and she required some fees up front for travel to get here. She's coming from Houston. She is for one of the district court trials. So this is the one check. It's $1,000.13. And then we have $1,000 check that's going to go to the district clerk's office. It's a cash bond that's being relinquished that the treasurer holds, and it's getting put, once a defendant is indicted, then then the money goes over to the district clerk's office, and that's what this is.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Here.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawbach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Now it's time for any elected official or department head have anything to bring up. Now's the time. I do have two things, one not so happy and one really happy. The first one being not happy, in fact, sad, is Commissioner-elect Dubnik's daughter passed away recently, and our hearts and prayers go out to that family. The happy note is Jackie Cockerham has been blessed with a pair of boys, twins, born Friday. And congratulations to you.
Grandchildren?
And
Grandchildren?
grandchildren. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yes.
That's special.
All right.
Next, I think on the 15th, we're going to have a presentation lady that's coming to talk about Part C of our Social Security. And I told her that, she said, "Do you think there'll be anybody there that might be eligible?" And I said, "Yeah, generally there's a lot of people there that might be eligible." But the Social Security Administration is going through a process now. They're not getting a lot of response where they think they should be on the Part C. And it's real important. So she's going to take about 15 minutes and tell us about it.
Yes.
Okay. Any other?
I have an update I'd like to provide. I had emailed with Jace Tunnel with UTMSI. He'd been here in April, if you remember, gave a presentation about the sampling of the red beds. And the court agreed to finance up to 50% of what the NAV district agreed to, which was 29,000. There was a slight delay on the NAV district's part of getting the contract done, but my understanding is that's moving forward now. And I just wanted to check and see how soon that sampling would start. We talked about it would begin in June and finish in December with a report to us. So there's been a delay. But Jace also spoke to the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program about this testing program, and they have agreed to expand and match what the county and the NAV district are putting up, so that the project will now be a total of about $58,000. And the expansion will be for sampling more area and for a longer term. So that's a good thing. Jay still believes that they can get the first reports to us in December. I'm happy to hear that. I also sent to him the information that many of us received about the possible disposal of brine from the desal plant that the port is proposing into the red beds. And he is working on that. He's going to visit with his two coworkers, Shang Fei Li, and I cannot remember the other person's name. They'll be meeting today to look at all of those documents and also see about expanding the testing they were going to do to take in some of that concern. So to be continued, but I wanted to provide an
So
update.
did Jay say if he thought that the fact that coastal bend bays and estuaries is contributing, that if that's going to affect the other grant that they applied to, because that's who the grant was from, the larger grant?
They decided not to do the extent. I didn't go to that meeting. That meeting, I believe, was last Tuesday. But Jace felt pleased that at least there was an interest on their part and that they wanted to support what the local entities were doing.
And the NAV district has appropriated their part of the money.
I am not attending the NAV district meetings recently. When I had COVID, and we're meeting now, so I can't go to theirs. But I will follow up after we get out of here.
I talked to Jace, that was part of the holdup, they never had authorized them.
I talked to Keith on last Thursday. He said that they were moving forward on that. He did not say they had done it yet.
But I will check and I'll bring in a response next Monday. Is that good? Thank you.
Okay. Update on that, Brian going into the red beds. I was informed by Jeff Hutt Friday that he had a discussion with someone in Corpus Christi, and that has been decided not to happen. So put that to bed if you believe anything you hear from Mr. Hutt. All right.
To adjourn?
Second.
Motion made, second.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I hope I didn't wait too late, but
No.
I just wanted to have a quick discussion for the minutes, or a statement for the minutes about the work that Mike McDonald will be doing on 1781. As you know, the portion of 1781 that I think we're talking about is right behind the airport. Is that correct? Yeah. And so the reason that we're even having to do that work is because of an agreement that was made years prior to me getting here, but it was made because of the approach surface into the airport right there. And that's covered under the Federal Aviation Regulation Part 77. And Part 77 easements and airspace is very closely guarded because the most important thing that any airport has is the approach into its runway. It has to be safe. It has to be down to a minimum. And in raising that roadbed, even a few inches can really affect that approach and under Part 77. So I know David and I had a talk about it, but I never heard a final height of the road. And I think we need to at least look at that. And if y'all, I'll give you my card. If you'd come by my office, I have those approaches on our at least have hard copies. I could probably get digital, but maybe take a look at them and let's just double verify that if the road is to be raised, that it's not going to encroach on the Part 77 approach path through there. Thank you.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I also might want to introduce Jeff Showstrom, who's come in, our new executive director for the EDC. Thank you for coming here.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
Jackie,
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor to adjourn?
aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.